Yeah. Can you just become a little shorter?
I just hold the things up from behind. Oh, so you can stand on a chair.
No, it's fine. Don't worry.
Well, we're just sort of warming up here now, Alizarin. It's a little bit early, but for those of you who've never seen us before, I'm Simon from Painting in France. We've lived down in the south of France for about nearly 10 years now. I can't believe how time has flown. We run painting holidays and workshops down here, and this is after a lifetime of commercial art, which is actually what I'm still doing a bit of as well. So is there any other questions that you might come up with? I did have a little thing, but of course we are in lockdown, so I'm hoping that you're safe and healthy wherever you are. It's a difficult time without a doubt, but we hope to bring a little bit of humour and lightness to your residents this morning. So shall I get started? What do you think?
I think so. Yes.
Okay. So today, but like I said, if you want to leave any you want to ask any questions, just tap into the keyboard. It'll pop up. Monica will be able to see it. But I will start by saying this is week 3 of our live tutorials. You'll find number 1 and 2 on YouTube, Painting in France. Go and check them out. Or it'll probably be on Facebook as well. Anyway, come on. We're keeping the themes French. So this week I was out in the vineyards and took some photographs of our local poppy fields.
This week? It's been raining this week.
I'm lying. I'm like, last week. And this is a lovely photograph. And someone said, I'd love to paint that photograph. Now would be a lovely painting on its own. But what I felt it needed was something like this. What I've done, so I've got a few more photographs. What I've done, I've got a few more photographs of poppies and things like that, which also make great painting studies. But we want to do something a little bit more local. So what I've done, I've literally, with the graphics program, cut these out and montage them in. And I've also had the little house in the corner, which is actually there. And so that gives you a kind of good basis. Hopefully, if you're painting along,
what happens if somebody doesn't have a graphics program? Can they just literally make some of the poppies in the foreground larger?
Yeah, this is the other things that yes, you can. Like here, if you come over to the artwork, sometimes I will literally trace off the photograph onto watercolour paper using a light box. But not this week. No, this week I went conventional and just did a nice sketch with a 2B pencil based loosely on this scene here. And what I've done, I've just sort of sketched the larger poppies in the foreground and some hints of trees, and there's a little cottage, little house here. So that's enough to get us going. What you will see is, contrary to my normal habits, I've actually used some masking fluid. I'm not sponsored by this brand, but it seems to be good. I didn't know I'd even got it. I found it in the back of here. Monica found it and said, why don't you use this? So what I've done is a little experiment. I've painted this masking fluid onto the bigger poppies in the foreground and the little ones in the background. And you see what that allows you to do is to paint your green field all over it and then let that dry, and then you just peel this off and rub that off. And then you've got white paper to put your red poppy mix on, which gives it a fresher look. But I've realised not all of you probably got this, so what I've done as well, I've left some unmasked, so we'll have to paint around those. So we'll see how that goes.
We've got just a second before we've got a few people that have joined us. Okay. Nancy Chambers.
Morning, everybody. Good morning from Bristol. To Bristol.
Krista, who is in my choir.
Hi.
Scott Gibbons.
Yeah.
Henny from Little French House.
Lauren, locals as well as international crowds.
Lauren Chandri, who is in France.
Yeah.
James Stevens from Bristol. Helen DeVette from South Africa, and Jane Hayward from Birmingham again.
Of course, who's an up-and-coming artist in the Midlands. So, but who knows? Before long, we'll be having people logging on from around the world. I think I apologise now because I got the times wrong. I tapped into my trusty or not so trusty time converter and said 11 o'clock start, and it said, okay, that's 8 o'clock in Canberra, and that's about 4 or 5 o'clock in Dallas. So I thought, great, that means the Australians can catch it with breakfast, and the Americans can catch it while having a little drink late afternoon. But of course, it was all wrong, because it's like 1 o'clock in the morning in Canberra, and some other kind of crazy... Oh, I don't even know what I said now. But basically, we're doing it 11 o'clock in the morning one week, and then 5 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the afternoon the next week. That's French time. So I'll put a post up. So you'll either catch the morning one or the afternoon one. And like I said, the videos are on Facebook.
We've got
afterwards.
Michael Bow and we've got Robin Donnellan from Australia. So,
we have got Australians on show. Welcome to Australia. Good day. Good to hear from. Good to see you. Well, I think we should get started, don't we?
Yeah.
As usual, what I've done, you might want to zoom in down. I've got a little bit of, we're going to do the sky, and let's look here. If you'd like to look at here.
Okay.
Sky car.
Yeah.
We did the sky, and we've got some clouds this time, just soft focus clouds. And then I'm going to put a wash of this kind of basic colour on the green area as well. So, to start with, I've not wet the paper. I've got a little bit of my favourite cerulean blue. I'm not going to put any other blues in there this time because it's quite a kind of early morning blue. Actually, today it's an early morning grey. Last week we started on the terrace.
I'm just going to show everybody
On the terrace.
our scene out of the window this morning is looking distinctly wet, unfortunately.
Who'd live in 300 days of sunshine, they say. I'm going to try and get a refund, actually. Okay, right, so I've got a bit of blue mix up. What I'm going to do is wash this on across here, but I'm going to bear in mind we've got some clouds. So it's going to be a little bit of painting and then a little bit of dabbing with a tissue. Let's have a look, see if it goes. So,
Elaine, if your picture is frozen, unfortunately, it's probably your internet. I know ours does go every now and then as well, so we do have the odd. But just give it time, and hopefully it will come back.
Yes, it's a challenge in these times. What I've done, I've just put a little bit of blue on there, and now with a clean damp brush, I'm just going to soften those edges off a little bit. There we are, like that. And now we've got a phone's ringing in the background. We've got agents from around the world ringing up. When will they learn that we're doing live on the Wednesday mornings? Okay, so I'm just added a little bit of blue. I've kind of left it a little bit lighter down here. Let's put some more in down there. As you can see, it's all going to disappear back. But I basically put a few brush strokes on, and with a clean brush, I'm just kind of wiping that away.
You got your hairdryer here.
Well, that's all right. Well, I like to get my hair looking good. I think. Yeah, I apologise. Last week my hair was sticking up all over. I had no idea at the back. I don't know how it looks today, but this is lockdown. I mean, I'm feeling sorry for the ladies because you guys must be struggling with your inability to visit the hairdressers. I know Monica's got a headscarf on most of the time. She's looking like a 1950s housewife, which is okay. Okay, now I think we're going to have a little bit of. We'll come back to those hills in the background, but I'm going to just go to my favourite sap green with a little bit of cadmium yellow. We're going to put some yellowy green in here, and so we're going to put a nice long, just a sort of big sweep of yellowy green across there. This is just getting those kind of background tones in. It can be quite rough. So now I'm going over these, confidently painting over the masked poppies, but I'm going to have to be a little bit careful. Certainly on the big ones. We can put red on those straight from the tube, that will work, but we may need to just be a little bit careful around here. Anyway, a little bit of yellowy green, and then as you come forward, oh, that's a bit strong. I'm just going to start putting in, quite rough at this stage, a bit more across there. That's it. So this, as you come near it, it's going to get a little bit darker. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to kind of carefully paint around there.
We've got a few more familiar faces.
A few more familiar faces.
Jan and Martin. Mac and...
Finally got up then. Good.
Mac and Keith.
Mac and Keith. Good, of course. Good to see. Right, I hope you're all painting away. I doubt it very much, but hopefully you will have a go. I want you to all have a go, if not today, over the weekend, because you could get a place on the much coveted exhibition wall next Monday. So bear that in mind. Okay, so I'm coming down now. As you can see in the picture, it kind of gets it's got a softly yellowy green here, out of focus, and it gets a bit stronger here. So we're going to be putting this green in a bit stronger now. You can keep it quite rough, quite sort of, let's have some vertical sort of brush strokes. You see, this is where your masking fluid comes in now. You see how that's all resisting the green, and it means you get a nice sort of hint of grassy shapes.
I see again you using your flick up
yes,
technique for this one.
Yeah, I'll just show you that. Especially in the foreground, it's good if you can roll your brush to a nice point, and then we just sort of flick. See, they get like instant grassy things. If you start doing this kind of thing, it doesn't work so well. So if you can, especially in the foreground, just flick it up, sort of thick and thin from the bottom. There we are. Tips, bonus tips.
And the familiar faces keep coming.
Good, that's what I like to see.
Les Mois in Wales.
Ah.
And Wendy Horswell. Wendy and Simon are watching from Torresel. But they say their bandwidth is so slow you're spinning. Wendy,
that's just my life.
Unfortunately, yeah, you might have to come back and watch it once we finish the recording. It might work better for you.
What's happening is the word has got out about these free live tutorials every Wednesday, and the world is surging, and the internet just can't take it. Because demand.
Well, because the whole world is online, darling, watching you.
The lights have dimmed in France, actually, because there's... So yeah, I'm just going a little bit carefully around that one. But these can be quite... We're going to come in a little bit darker in here later on. But you get... It's still quite rough.
You're still using a really big brush even for the sort of upward flicks, aren't you?
Yeah, I guess that... Yeah, you're right. I mean, it kind of... You can use a bigger brush, certainly in the foreground. Yeah. We'll use a slightly smaller one. And maybe even... I'm going to expect a sharp intake of breath. You may be able to use the special grass brush. Not everybody gets used to use this, even in classes. Some people have begged me. They come back for weeks. Eventually, I'll let them use it.
Have you only got one?
I've only got one. Yeah. Right, where are we now? I think some distant hills. If you look, we've got a nice sort of hint of sort of distant hills, and then the trees in the foreground. So now we've got like the kind of those initial colours in place. So you've got almost, you could sign it now, couldn't you, really?
We've got Nancy in Bristol has asked, should we be painting along with you now, or is this a demo?
Probably choice. Yeah, either or. Yeah, I mean, I would say if you haven't got your sleeves rolled up and your drawing ready to paint, it's probably best to just put the kettle on and enjoy the show. And then paint this later on. Yeah, it's up to you. If you can draw quickly and paint quickly. A talented lady, I've seen her website. She may be able to do it. But yes, if you want to paint long, that's the idea. If you want to paint long, great. It's good to have a drawing. I generally post the drawing first so people can prepare the paper and be ready to start painting. Because if we start doing all the drawing, it's going to be hours of your time. I don't know if that's answered the question really. If you can quickly put the picture together from the photograph, by all means. But it might be difficult to keep up. Anyway, we're going to go back to the distant hills. I've got a little bit of my green mixed with my blue. And let's have a look. I'm just going to put that.
Sorry, there's a bit of a wobble. I'm just looking for a chair to sit on for 5 minutes.
Well, you're sitting down now. Oh, God, don't forget to get me in now and again. Okay, I'm going to put some. There we are. Put some distant hills in. Miss the house out. Let's take those a bit higher. There we are. And you see the trees. When we let that dry, then we'll have put the trees on top. But I've got a nice little edge on there. Nice little edge on there. And I'm just going to wipe that edge off. There we are. That's okay. What I've got one here. Like Blue Peter, the old TV program. I've got one here I did earlier. So that's it. Bye. See you next week. No, what it is, we've got the sky in, and we've got some distant hills, and I've got the first background colour of this Poppies area here. So I'm going to go and get a hairdryer and dry those hills off, then we can paint those trees in. And,
Robin has asked, what colour did you use in the hills?
The colour in the hills, that was cerulean blue and sap green mixed together. So basically just your sky blue and the grass green.
So you've got quite a limited palette this week, haven't you?
I am, and I've got a limited flex on my hairdryer as well.
You silly.
I can dry it. This is just a quick way of drying off the layers. Of course, if you're painting en plein air, you can just lean back and have a little snooze under a tree while it dries with a glass of red wine, and then pick it up again. Okay, let's have a look at that. So I'm going to go. I've got a slightly smaller brush now. This, for the record, is number 10. Also a red, what do they call it? Red label, SAA All Rounder. I'm not sponsored, but maybe I soon will be. So I've just mixed up a kind of watery green mix, and what we're going to do, we're going to put the first layer on these trees, and then before it dries, I'll put some dark on as well. Right, what's quite good is this kind of, there's a bit of an edge on the field, so I'm just kind of almost drawing that up, and then with the side of my brush I'm just kind of flicking in some tree shapes.
So that edge, is this, let's just show them on,
yeah,
is this that little dark section there?
Yeah,
or
what's nice is there's actually a road that runs up there, so by painting a relatively clean line up here, it kind of emphasises the edge of the field. There we go.
Mr. Graham London is online.
Mr. Graham London. Okay, now there's a man who could paint this with one arm tied behind his back, and he'd probably enjoy that. Okay, right, I'm just putting some more of these. There's a little bit. I quite like taking the trees over the horizon, over the hills. I'm going to put a few little tree stumps. We're going to go back in here a bit later on with some darker colours. And now let's have a little bit of a gap, maybe some things like that.
So because I know a lot of people struggle to paint trees. Any sort of technique tips again? You know how you're flicking up with the grass. Is there any way that sort of makes it easier for people?
Well, and that's 2 tips. Hang on. Okay. What you want to do, instead of the flicky up ones, what you can do, you put your brush on its side slightly, and you do this kind of thing. Keep it random, and you get a different sort of. Don't do this. That's what people do. They just think, right, tree, that's like that. No, try and do a little bit of sort of soft, sort of brushy, sideways brush thing, and then.
So almost drawing a little bit with the brush.
Almost drawing a bit, yeah.
Rather than just dabbing colour on.
In fact, I've had some requests come through for some little separate sort of tutorials, and one of them was how to paint trees. I mean, all I'm doing here, I'm just kind of looking at this lovely sort of out of focus background, and I'm painting just roughly in here, based loosely on what I've got here, and then I'm going to make it a little bit green around by the house because the tree looks a bit dead. So I'm going to put one like that, hint at the tree stumped, and it kind of goes behind the house. If you put a tree behind the house, it's quite good because it emphasises the shape of the roof then. Bit of a gap, nice little wall here. There's Kevin and Elaine's house. Is Elaine watching?
Elaine was, but she was having problems with her internet.
Oh, okay, right. Well, that live on the edge of the village.
We've got Helen Untied watching from Cape Town.
How's the signal in Cape Town, Helen?
She says, busy working, watching and listening to you both.
That's the way.
So lovely to be inspired this morning.
Okay, good. Right.
So Cape Town is even more locked down than we are here in France, aren't they? Yeah, they're not allowed to leave their houses at all.
Is that right?
No, except for shopping and.
Wow. Okay. So they really are major viewers. Okay. Now what I've done, I've mixed a little bit of Hooker's Green, and just for record, Monica said, "Why is it called Hooker's Green?" And I plucked a name out of my head, saying, "Oh, it's probably a Victorian botanical artist who discovered it called William Hooker." And I was right. How about that? I guessed it correctly.
Yeah, we actually, what is it, Moxpedia went to Wikipedia afterwards and actually said to Simon, you're not going to believe it, but you know, the bullshit that you were sprouting the other day is actually true.
Yeah, so that put me briefly ahead of my wife on the intellectual stakes, and then it's slipped badly back down. Okay, so talking of trees. Now we've got the sun. Where's the sun coming from? You're right. On the left-hand side over here, we've got a sort of morning sunshine. So what I'm going to try and do, I did it really well on the test one. This could go wrong. I just wanted to put a little bit of shadow in under the trees. Now, what was nice about the other day is that the green was still wet. So this is, I'm just going to do a little bit like that. Aha.
There's a woman called Christiane Foot.
Ah, yes.
Hallo von Munich. Peter und Christiane.
Ah, guten Tag. Willkommen. There we are. Okay, I'm just, you see now, what I had hoped was that it was going to be a little bit wetter, but I'm just going to blend that with a damp brush a little bit. Keep a few little gaps through the trees. That's not looking bad, is it? And then let's have a little bit darker down the edge. So I'm just sort of keeping my eye on the edge of the field, but I kind of want to see through the trees to hint at distant vineyards and hills beyond. So there we are, a bit of that. Like I said, let me just show you. This was better. This was the test one I did, and I was just sort of painted the whole thing in soft sap green, and then before it dried, I started going in with the darker green. And as you see, it's got a lovely soft focus, which I haven't quite caught yet. But that's the nature of working live, ladies and gentlemen. Anything can happen.
But it's also the nature of watercolour, though, isn't it?
Exactly, yes.
Because it all depends on how wet or dry your paper is.
Yes, that's right. As you can see, this is a little bit wetter here. I mean, so that's, I'm kind of keeping it simple as usual. Just two greens, the sap green and the hooker's green. I'm just kind of bearing in mind that's the shadows are kind of down on the right hand side. So they're that's kind of over there, kind of around the house a little bit. And then along here, perhaps a little bit behind there. Oh, see, now it's still a bit wetter, so it's blending quite nicely. We've got a bit of a cypress tree there, so I'm going to put that in, and then under there.
Nikki Shale said, unfortunately, she's just gotten on. She said, sorry, I'm late, but it wouldn't let me join initially.
Oh, dear. Oh, well, not to worry. Luckily, I said it. Please enjoy watching. If you can make a start, why not? But fire away with questions after the event, and I can get back to you with any way I can help.
And we've got Robbie DeVette, who's logged in from Australia. Howdy cobbers, he says.
Howdy cobbers.
From Meetung. Hope you guys are well, guys.
So what time is it there? I think someone sabotaged my time converter. So there we go. Okay, so as you can see, we've got what do you think? Is this working out right?
Yeah, I think it looks good.
Okay, yeah, so it's got that kind of, it will sort of blend a little. I wanted to try, rather than keeping it too sharp, I wanted it, those trees are beautifully out of focus here. I might just put a few more.
Let me just...
Cool.
Yeah, just out of the way. Out of the way, go on.
Trees, out of focus, clouds. Oh, they're looking quite good now, aren't they? The nice thing is about watercolour is don't panic. Don't panic and let it do its own thing. Let's have a little bit more now. So yeah, we want to just keep it kind of...
You've kind of got the softness of the sky, which is
lovely.
lovely.
Thank you, darling, yes. You see, very rare. I have to go on a course to paint clouds because you don't get them. I'm very lazy when it comes to clouds. Normally the sky is just blue and I just do a quick graded wash. As you saw the other week, I would wipe a few high clouds out, job done. The English guys, the English landscape artists do magnificent clouds with storms coming over the Yorkshire Dales and stuff. We don't have to do it here. So this is quite nice to have a few little soft clouds. But the thing to do, paint with the sky, bear in mind, keep a little bit of white in there and work quickly with a kind of clean damp brush or even a tissue just to kind of keep it soft, and it'll eventually all fade back. Right, so I can't think what was next. I think what we're going to do now is...
You also wanted to show people because you always tend to paint with a really large palette, don't you?
Oh yeah, let's have a look at this. While that's drying, this is the After years and years of experimentation, I kind of like this setup here. It's probably about £2 worth of plastic. But what I tend to do, finally, it does make sense, is to start with the kind of cool, or the yellowy colours, or the kind of going into the warm colours, and then back to the cool. So we've got yellows, Naples yellow, yellow ochre, cadmium yellow. I shan't go through all the names, but basically, as you can see, there's a range of greens, a range of reds up here, and then we've got a range of blues, finishing up with what should have been Payne's grey, but it looks like I've got a brown over here as well. But basically, if you can, the nice thing about watercolours, you can squeeze these, you can fill these with tubes straight in like that, and every time you come back, just wash this area out, and you come back to it, and it just starts up again. So it's a good way of working.
You tend to use tubes nowadays rather than pans, but when you're travelling, you tend to use.
Yeah. I mean, travelling. These are great for travelling. Also not sponsored by them, but if people would like to get in touch with my people, well, that'd be fine. We can work something out. But yeah, you can just take a little. You could paint this picture with just this little set here, but it may take you a bit longer because that's the brush it comes with. So you may have to take some brush with you. Anyway, that's that one. Right, I think now we want some slightly stronger sections of green here now. It's really quite dark here down the front.
It's just, let me just zoom in and again so that people can...
So yeah, we want to add a little bit of texture and greenery going on, getting darker and more textural here. It's really quite simple. No, it's not. It's not simple. It's straightforward. I'll come back to the house and the wall because it's still a bit wet around there. So once more yet again, I think it's that.
But that again is your sap green.
It is sap green.
And just
call me lazy. No, this is what we're going to do. See in the background, you've got some nice big sweeps of across there, almost a dry brush, and then it comes down behind the grass effect. Forget the poppies for now. So that's what I'm going to try and do. I'm glad.
So what happens if it all goes?
If it all goes wrong, we just go. The screen goes black and it says normal service will be resumed as soon as possible. Okay, I've got a bit of a greeny kind of yellow mixed. So a bit of cadmium yellow and a bit of sap green, and by rubbing it on the paper, a bit of scrap paper, then almost running it across sideways, you get a nice kind of textured thing. Theoretically, let's have a look. Oh yeah, that's quite nice. It almost gives the illusion. Leave a little gap. That's what I love about watercolour, or I always find important, is that we've got the distant hills, then the strong trees, then there's a little bit of a lightness here, and then it starts to get stronger again. If you do it green all over, it just tends to look a bit flat. So I'm just bringing that forward a bit, and then I'm going to go a stronger green. Perhaps that's sap green and hookers, or a light green and a dark green. And I think we're just going to start putting that in quite strongly now. So we leave a little bit of the other colour shining through underneath.
So you've got almost virtually no water in that mix, have you? It's
yeah,
that's
right. As you come forward, or in the picture into the foreground, the paint can be a bit thicker. Oh, it should be, yeah, because then it's sort of watery and lighter in the background to give the illusion of distance, and then as you come forward it's a bit stronger, so that's probably a bit dark for the middle. What I'm going to do...
We've got Angeli Theodoros, who has joined us from Adelaide.
From Adelaide!
Great to finally catch up from Adelaide.
Great, well, pleased to meet you. I'm not sure if you've been on before, but perhaps you have. I'm Simon, and Monica's behind the camera, the 1950s housewife, and we're here in the south of France, normally doing painting holidays and painting workshops, but in these difficult times, we're all indoors. So I've got the sap green quite strongly mixed. If it's too wet, just dry it on a bit of paper. Now I'm going to put a little bit of slightly smaller strokes in here. Look, see what I mean? This is like the kind of...
Try and... Can you...
That's a sort of mid-ground. See, the stroke's a little bit smaller.
Sorry for the slightly wobbly filming every now and then.
There we go. Okay, so that's... Do you see what I mean? So now we've just got a little bit of... Basically, the further you are away, the finer these little textural grassy strokes are, and then they can get bigger. as you come forward. In fact, drum roll, and now, without further ado, yes, the moment you've all been waiting for, the use of the special grass brush. Let's have a look.
Is it pretty well the only thing one uses it for?
Pretty well, yeah. Otherwise, well, I'm sure people can think of something. So I've got the same green on and dry the brush off a little bit on some paper, and then away you go. Just sort of random strokes. It's like
magic,
like a combine harvester. Just work in that area. Just sort of keep it kind of random. People often paint too regularly with the brushes.
Because again, I noticed your grass is basically coming from both directions, isn't it? You're not just doing up. You're not just doing from one direction.
No, well, I mean, if you look here, it is. It's like it looks like a nightmare. How on earth are you going to paint that? I am asking myself the same question. But if you just keep it simple, that basically it's grass going up, got dark and light. We're going to go back in with some lighter grass strokes as well.
And a question from Keith. Hi, is that masking fluid on the poppies? Yeah, Keith, it is on the ones towards the left-hand
side.
side.
Just come in. Keith, can you catch the 10 o'clock start? It's going on the report. Right. Now, what I've done here, Keith will laugh because he was I think he was quite a fan of masking fluid, or he is, probably still is, a fan of masking fluid, and would use it whenever he could. He'd probably cover his whole picture with masking fluid and then work from there. Where I said, no, you don't need to do that. You don't need that. It did work well if you got sparkling water. We might do a Venetian scene. Oh no, we're trying to keep it French, aren't we? But yes, I have used masking fluid, and I've kind of masked that off. It takes about half an hour to dry, so I did it in advance. I've masked off some of these. You just paint it on. It's like a liquid. Paint it on, and I've masked off the poppies on this side, but not on this side. So, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be able to see how we get on. In the meantime, there we are. Now, Keith, I've not had any of your paintings come through yet. I am expecting some. What was that? I'm glad there's. Oh, look! You see now, that's it. See, I've overdone it. What I've done, because I thought I've blindly gone across everywhere, thinking everywhere's masked up. You want to try and keep these poppies here, certainly the big ones, white, so the paint shines out.
Because I suppose if you start mixing those large areas with green and red, you're just going to land up with kind of brown, aren't you?
Exactly, yeah. You're never quite... I mean, this isn't acrylic or oils, ladies and gentlemen. No, this is the reckless world of watercolour, and it can all go horribly wrong, so it's best to have professional tutors teach you to work in these tricky conditions. But yeah, you want to keep basically where you want another colour on top, like here, where they're tonally quite similar, reds and the green. You need to keep that light so it shines out better. We'll see if that's worked later on. Okay, now I'm going to go. Let's keep going. If you can, fast forward it now, because there's lots of these going in. I'm just getting a nice sort of, as you say, in the foreground, the brush strokes are bigger, but I'm not covering everything. And
while you're doing that, can I step backwards and get myself a sip of water, please?
Sure, yeah.
Sorry, I can't quite get to my water and hold the camera at the same time. Maybe I should.
There we go. Okay. So now.
Do you need a sip?
I've got some over here.
You've got some.
I'm good. Yeah. So. Okay, so it is. Like I said, it is best to keep it a little bit random because this is a kind of a wild field of poppies. Actually, this was taken this photograph was last week. We walked past there yesterday.
And even in the rain.
In the rain. And all the poppies are like hunched over, but there's hundreds of them now, Alicia, hundreds. I'll post some photographs and coming. How long do poppies last? Another week?
No, they normally go on for about a month. You know, from beginning to end, it's about a month to, yeah. And I mean, I'm feeling a little sad because we were due to start our first painting holiday this weekend, and I think the idea was potentially to do one of the poppy fields because they're at their best in sort of late April beginning of May. So unfortunately, our June holidays, they're still vestiges sometimes, aren't they, of poppies, but they're not at their best any longer by June. Marilyn, hi, you are online. We can actually see you. I've only just seen you come up, but you are communicating with us.
Hi Marilyn, good morning.
And I'm glad that you're watching.
Okay, so I'm not going to start again. Basically, we've put washes of blue sky in, dabbed some clouds away, the background sort of lighter greens in the foreground, and then we've started going, as that dries, we've started going in with stronger grassy brush strokes. But now I'm going to put a little bit of Naples yellow, ladies and gentlemen, Naples yellow, which is that very kind of creamy yellow with a little bit of yellow ochre. I'm just going to put, which I don't do it enough, but I should. It's always good just to have a little scrap of paper handy, because that's just to try your colour up before you put it straight onto your painting, like that. I've just realised that's a little bit too strong. Okay, so we're over here, we're just going to put a little wash of, I'm going to put a little wash of colour over all that. That's a nice little, it's a little deserted French house, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, I mean, I've never seen anybody in it, but it's really beautiful. It's a little bit, it's a bit more than a maze, isn't it?
What do you think? Was it's just a regular house, or do you think it's?
No, it almost looks like a little sort of winter retreat or something. You know, because it's not big enough to live in full time, but it's definitely big enough to spend a weekend in.
Customs and excise on the edge of the village.
Oh,
okay, so.
You mean what? The toll house?
Yeah. I've put a little bit of Payne's grey in now. Payne's grey, top left-hand corner, if you've got it laid out. Because if you look, there's a little bit of sort of murkiness. It's just the old texture, just on that one side of the bridge, of the house.
Is it not where there's ivy climbing up the walls?
No, something? If you can zoom in on this.
Which yellow, please?
If you can get off your chair and have a look.
Cheeky.
See, it's a bit sort of dark and murky there. It's kind of the damp, I think.
Okay.
Damp. Okay, today's raining, but it's not real.
Robin's asked what yellow we're using.
Yellow, I've got it's either Naples yellow or you can use a very watery yellow ochre. So it's this kind of very sort of pale grey yellow. No, it's not super bright. It's quite distant.
Let me just zoom in on it.
The funny thing is, I noticed that the colours do look a bit weird on the video. Like the yellows are slightly murky. Right. I promise you they are superb quality colours. So what have we got? That's there. So now I'm going to let that dry, and I'll eventually put a little bit of roof on and so on. But it could be time. It could be time to rub some of these away. What do you think? Let's have. Is it
all dry around it?
That's a good point. Well,
can you just double check? Because otherwise it can get a bit messy.
That's true. If basically what happens is you let all this area dry, and then you can rub this off with your finger. It just kind of rolls off like a little plastic roll. But of course, if it's still a bit wet here, you end up rubbing the green all over your poppies, and then you might as well reset the dials, chuck it in the bin, and start again. No, but seriously, let's have a look. What it needs, I think, is some. I'm tempted. Let's have a look. This is it. Let's just put this. There we are. Finished. No, what I'm looking at here is I think we need some darker ones in here before we dry it off.
And I see you've also got almost those little seed pods that you put into
Seed pods, well spotted. Yes, I've got some masked off. They're kind of you put those on right at the very end.
Okay.
They are actually not very good enough. But here, there's a typical close-up of a field, and you get these nice little seed pods, which we'll try and bring in. This is quite a good close-up of the grassy effects. So I am going to, yes, at that time, add some more drama to the foreground. What I'm going to do is...
So we've got Sylvia's just come online. She said she's missing Fusion. She'd probably be coming over fairly shortly normally.
Exactly. This is terrible times. It
says missing her art classes.
Missing art classes. Just send money, Sylvia. That'll be fine. Okay, so now on the one I did yesterday, I felt it needed a little bit darker here because it just helps. If your foreground's intense, it just amplifies the distance quite nicely. And we're going to put a little bit of light green on top of here anyway. So, oh, that's not even dark enough. Let's go mad. I'm going to add a little bit of blue to the green. A little bit of ultramarine to this hooker's green. Let's
and again, this is almost pure paint, isn't it?
It's almost pure paint now, yeah. This is, and because we've got it masked off, ladies and gentlemen, you see I can just go recklessly over here. So we're just trying to get a little bit more density down here.
Do you paint your masking fluid on? How do you transfer masking fluid onto
I'll do a little demo. Well, that's just...
And does it not make a mess of your brushes?
Yeah, it can do. I mean, basically, yeah, this is the stuff. And it's like, excuse me. It's like a liquidy gun. I don't know if you can see that. And you just dip that in and paint it on. Paint it on. I won't paint it on because you have to wash. You can wash the brushes out with soapy water. Okay. But you just kind of paint that on, let that dry like a little, and it goes like a little plastic film. It's damn clever. I should use it more often. I should listen to Keith more often. But okay, a little bit more tissue. So what have we got? We've got the hooker's green, and
together with, that's a really dark blue, isn't it?
Yeah, very kind of ultramarine, and I've mixed some hooker's green and ultramarine blue, so it gives us a real kind of intense. Oh, look at that! A real kind of intense green.
Okay, let me just.
I'm just flicking that on. That's going to be nice underneath there. It's almost just down here in this foreground area. Believe me, it'll be worth it. Was that supposed to be a poppy? No, I think we're okay. But like I said, be very careful as you come round the one that you haven't. If you haven't been able to mask the poppies off, just be a little bit more careful with your brushy flicks. There we are. There's a few. I mean, yeah. Think Disney. You know, it's like the Jungle Book. It's stuff's not straight up. It's a little bit more left and right. A little bit of curves here and there. Yeah, that's good. How's that looking? I think I'll just let that dry a little bit. Okay. So as you can see now, hopefully, you can see the intense drama here. Going back to the kind of mid-tones here, and then the distant sort of, the edge of the kind of poppy fields before the road and the trees. That's the idea. I think I'd buy that. That's good, that. All paintings are for sale to the highest bidder, so do get in touch. All right. How are we doing? What I'm going to do, I'm going to dry that off now. Actually, while that's drying, I'll just say we are planning some more intense, more focused classes. Intense. How can it be more intense than this? We are doing some, going to be doing some Zoom classes with a maximum of how many? 8?
No, we said probably 8 to 10 people.
8 to 10 people, where you, I'll send you all a drawing, and then we can prepare all that. Then we all log in together, and I do it like up to perhaps a 2-hour, maybe even 3-hour tutorial, which we all take part in.
But that's going to be a lot more interactive, isn't it? Because people will be able to talk to you. They'll be able to ask you more questions. So exactly. It's more like an actual art. It's more like a lesson, proper workshop, rather than just a demonstration.
It'll be a small fee for that, but it'll be worth it. Okay, I won't be supplying materials, but I will be able to check your paintings, and we'll be able to it'll be fun. We'll try that. What I'll do, I'll look into it, and then I'll email people, put it in the newsletter, and for anyone who's interested in doing something, perhaps in a group of friends, you can be online as well. We'll work it out from there. And
basically Zoom is going to be, Zoom's available on phones or laptops or tablets.
Right.
If you have a phone, I would suggest that you have it so that it's propped up in some way, because it doesn't really matter, because
we'll do a sort of test run. We'll see how it goes. Yeah. Because I had to take some photographs today. Because, ladies and gentlemen, Airbnb have been in touch as well, because they're looking at online experiences, people with experience and skill, and so they've been getting in touch. They've got in touch with us because they want someone to do a painting class on them. So that will be one way of, but you'll be best to come to the little private classes we'll be running, because I think actually they want to do something with Monica as well, who's doing a cooking tutorial tomorrow afternoon French time. I'll send you a link. We'll send some details because that should be a good laugh. It'll be a good laugh. It'll be an informative and a wonderful way to spend an hour in our kitchen, I think. Because they did ask about getting you on the Airbnb as well.
Yes, they did.
I think our future is online, ladies and gentlemen.
And people can finally see that I don't just walk around in a dressing gown and with my hair in curlers.
Okay, I'm going to, I don't know.
So today, I'll take you on a tour of us. Millie's lying up the other way. She's looking a little bedraggled and wet. Hey, Moosey. Hi, my girl. Hey. Our walks have been rather sodden. And for people who've been in our studio, there are... Are you finished?
Nearly. Yeah,
Nearly?
I'm just going to rub that off. So now...
Is it the big reveal?
The big reveal. What I've done now, I've just dried it off just to make sure. And I'm just going to pick a little...
Hi, Helen.
One of those.
Helen from Magalas's.
Ah, hi.
So do you tend to just do it with your finger?
Yeah,
do you find that...
Just the finger. I mean, like I said, because the important thing is that it's dry around there. There we are, look at that. Oh, look at that. See, it is. Keith was right. You just put a few little dabs in. You see, now we can dab the poppies in. They'll shine out of the page, all being well. And we'll be able to compare with masking fluid and without masking fluid.
I mean, as you said, you don't use it very often, but you think it's something that is probably worth investing in for the occasion that one does it?
I've just proved it. Yes, I think it is. I always use masking fluid whenever I can. It just helps to keep the picture pure. And you see, now it's happening just because the bigger areas.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe you should try drying that bigger area or dabbing it off a little bit more before you...
Maybe I'll just come down a bit.
Careful, that paint's still wet.
Oh.
Love, please dry it a little bit more.
Okay, right. Oh, that's the problem.
Ah.
My finger is covered in green paint. So, I recommend changing fingers and then use that one. So,
is that better?
Oh, that's okay because that's going to be green. Ooh. Yeah, so once... I'm just recklessly, potentially destroying my picture.
What are your fingers looking like?
Stud pun.
Look, what are your fingers looking like?
A bit grubby. That's a small one. That's that one. So yeah, as you can see, I've just. It should rub off.
But your finger is still where it's now got.
That's not too bad. I wonder if you can. You might be able to use something else, but I think that.
What if you used, just experiment, what about a rubber eraser? Because basically you need something that has...
Like that?
Yeah.
I don't know. Oh, grubby. See, whose idea was it to use masking fluid? As you can see, it works quite nicely in the small ones. But I think you're right. Maybe it needed... I'll give it more of a dry.
Give it a bit more of a dry around those areas because it still looks a little bit...
This is live experimentation, ladies and gentlemen.
Did you not use masking fluid on your one?
What?
Did you not use masking fluid on your experimentation yesterday?
No, I didn't actually. Oh no, I did. But I think maybe I didn't dry it enough. I don't think. And sometimes, if you leave the masking fluid on too long, that can also damage the paper. It should be what's this one? Oh, don't leave it on too long because it can damage the paper. No, let's have a look. Let's just come up from down here.
That looks better.
Let's have a look. So as you can see, it is important to let that all dry. It'll be fine. I mean, cadmium red on here, it'll just shine out.
But that is looking better, isn't it? Having dried it a little bit more.
Yeah, actually, it's not coming off now. I think it's sealed to the.
So possibly masking fluid works well when you can dry stuff naturally.
Yep. I think that's it.
But maybe the hairdryer's not been the best
Maybe the hairdryer's actually fused it to the paper.
in these big areas.
Oh, do you know, I love working live. You see, if you go online to YouTube and you'll watch some tutorial there.
So
so smooth.
Joan Witcher says to us, there is an item specifically designed for removing masking fluid sold by the SAA.
Is that right?
So we'll have a look online and see what it's called, and we'll post it on this.
I bet it's called the SAA finger or something. That's fine, that's fine. So that's all come off. That's one we painted around. But it did work well in the little background ones, didn't it?
Yeah.
What I might do is just try and remove that a little bit. Basically, I've got some clean water. Clean water. Do you know, there are some poppies that have a slightly green tinge anyway. So this could be one of those. I like to keep it natural. They can't be all pure red. Okay, let's have a look at that. Right, and now, in which case I can go straight in with the...
I have butterflies for you at this stage.
butterfly.
That's
nice.
mad, isn't it?
Yeah, that is. That's kind of it. You're caring, kind of. You're caring. Okay, so...
So is that pure cadmium red?
This is pure cadmium red. Believe me, I've tried for you a number of reds, even looking for gouache reds, but nothing has come quite close to this strong watercolour red. This is cadmium red straight out of the tube.
It's just
cadmium red straight
out of the tube. Yeah.
And I'm just, at this point, I'm just going to quite randomly just splash that in. Like that.
Joan has said that she thinks the product is called Mask Away or something similar.
Away, of course. Okay, I'll keep my eyes open for that. So now I'm literally, you don't want to put the kettle on because I'll be the next 3 hours putting these in.
Can I just put...
But yeah, basically what we've got here, we've got obviously got all these, as it's a simple enough formula. I mean, we've got this pure red straight out of the tube. I mean, I will put a little dash of something in there just to give it a little bit of shape. But yeah, large in the foreground, smaller in the background. And I mean, don't put them too close together. I mean, I'm putting this on the little masked dots in the background. It doesn't really make any difference. So, oops, that's a bigger one there. But yeah, you know, just dab those in random, not too big. You can always make them bigger, but it'd be a nightmare.
So I noticed you're putting some in where you actually created white dots, but you're now
I'm realising that because the red is stronger than that lighter green, it kind of jumps out.
Yeah.
So that kind of works.
So our masking fluid expert, Keith, has said, I have found masking fluid is not so happy to come off when it's warm. I.e. hairdryer, easier when cold.
Okay.
Thanks, Keith.
So there we are. Thanks for that tip. There we are. Good. So yeah, that gives you an idea.
But I think, again, isn't it? It's what's quite interesting is you realise, I mean, you've been working in watercolour for donkey's years.
Well, the last 75 years. Last 75 years, man and boy. Right.
But you're still learning, aren't you?
Still learning. Yeah. No, I can do it really well. I'm an expert. I think if I'm an expert, just go to the who's who of watercolour artists. I'm in there somewhere. But now, you know what?
Hey, Velda.
I think. Oh, hi, Val. All right.
Val from Canberra.
She's come on the trip before, and is now, yeah.
And Val actually does some amazing painting trips out into the outback in Australia.
That's right. That'd be great to do that. What I'm doing now, I'm just adding a little hint of sort of cadmium yellow in there, just to sort of give it a little bit of unusual shape. Anyway, in fact, you could probably paint some in that kind of orangey yellow. I won't paint it all because it'll be here all day. So yeah, there we are. But now, actually, while I was there, because there was some. Okay, let's have a look. This is the one that was. I'll just put that. which is really quite thick, you can see.
Okay, let me just get in on that one slightly.
I'm just sort of doing one of these, and I've got to put it a bit darker in. Actually, you see, I've got away with it because although the masking fluid didn't protect it completely, it's it's okay. It's an impression of a poppy. I think you'll find, but it has shown out. If it had been completely green, the grass, I'd be almost impossible to paint a poppy on top of there.
Yeah.
Should I do one there?
Well, it's going to be interesting because even here you've got a bit more green in, isn't it? So
okay, let's do that one. This is. You see, actually, it's not too bad because the red is so strong. It is covering the background quite nicely.
it is, but one is seeing that shining through over there, which if you really had lots of green over it, it would start looking quite messy, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I'm just kind of giving it a little bit of. You'd be surprised. I mean, the poppies are really quite fragile, aren't they?
They're incredibly fragile.
Floppy, for want of a better word.
I mean, I've often picked them out on walks, and you bring them back, and it's just it's a flower that doesn't like being in a vase either. They look best out on the fields.
They do.
They literally only last for a few hours in a vase.
Painted by Simon Roberts, of course.
Or in a painting by Simon Roberts.
I'm just kind of I'm adding a little bit of water and a little bit of cadmium yellow because that's quite nice. I'll come back and put a bit of shadow in there, but at the moment I want to keep it relatively fresh. There we go. And let's see how these. So this was the area which wasn't really marked. Let's try a couple over here just to show you. Like I said, I think we might get away with it.
James, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, hi.
It was good to kind of see you.
Move over a little bit. You're in the. Just getting the shadow. Okay, so now you see I'm painting much too evenly. Like I said, you don't want it too even. They're kind of a wild field of poppies. They're not sort of tulips growing in a Dutch flower farm. And then here. Okay, great. So that gives you an idea. Just blend that out a little bit. So, but what you'll find is that the red, which you've painted onto the green, will go a little bit darker. Whereas I think the red you paint onto the white. Yeah, well,
it's far more obvious now, isn't it? Where one sees the red going over the green.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So while that's drying,
which again, if you look at a natural poppy, having little bits coming in is not necessarily a bad thing because you do have these sort of darker shadows and sort of areas.
Yeah.
It's not like it's a complete flat red, is it?
Let's just try actually. While I'm at it, I've got some Alizarin Crimson, ladies and gentlemen. Alizarin Crimson. So basically like a darker.
So the Alizarin Crimson is?
Alizarin Crimson. This slightly richer red, which is quite nice for some. I'm just going to try and dab a little bit of. I said this game. It doesn't really matter too much. So just while it's still damp, it's quite nice. You can just dab a little bit on. Here, let's try that here. I'm just trying to get a hint
of those darker areas.
Yeah, but be careful. It just kind of, it just sometimes just rolls, and you can never. I think often you can just put a little bit of that on, and it have to stand back and just let it happen because it kind of has its own life, if you like.
Is it not going to start dripping there?
No, darling, that is watercolour at its best. You're putting it over in the shadow there.
Sorry.
Oh no. Okay. Anyway, so that now it's going. Now it's just about to run down the page. Like I said, I'm normally working at a slightly tilted angle, so working vertically.
Our Munich couple has said that it's coming on nicely.
Vielen Dank. Thank you very much. And that looks fine. Okay, good. There's a bright yellow in there. I forgot that. But what I'll do, what's quite nice is while it's sort of damp, and you're putting this kind of reddish, alizarin crimson-y magenta thing on. Let's have a look. There's a little bit of something going on here. Look. I'm just going to put a little. Sometimes you just have to put a patch on like that, and then
Be brave.
Be brave. Take a deep breath and just leave it. And then...
and what are you, on your picture, which one are you kind of trying to replicate, or nothing specifically? Just
no, for this one. But I may have gone a bit too far. What I'm going to do is just wipe... Oh no, I'll let it go. I don't care. They do tend to bleed and dry and fade, and I think sometimes it's best to just splash a little bit of colour on like this and stand back. Don't start doing this. Oh my god, I gotta get it. So just splash some colour on and let it just see what happens. And while it's still damp, let's put another bit of damp down here. Look. So I've forgotten the building in the background. There's a little bit of roof work needed, and then I think we're quite close.
Except you said you had a bit of yellow in one of the, or is it too late now?
A bit of yellow in the what?
One of the poppies.
Yes, that's going to go in here, okay. But I want to let that dry. I've just got a little bit of burnt sienna, I've got a brownie mixed with a little bit of grey here. I'm just going to put a little bit of, carefully put a little bit of roof in there.
We seeing is your...
Sorry, I'm just going to put this...
I'm going to just squeeze around the side.
Yeah.
Can we see anything? There, a little bit. Sorry, it's a little bit a weird perspective, but...
That looks a bit boxy, but I think that'll fade, and I'm going to put a little bit of shadow in down there as well. So that's just got that in. Oh, while I've had it, I'll just put a little bit of... Let's have a little bit of something on here. Bit of that on there. And I'm going to put a little bit of shadow on that side. Oh yeah, is that working? Yeah, okay. That's it. Phew.
Do you ever feel like that when you're painting? That's sort of like, oh, it's okay.
That's fine.
Because I've spent the last hour on this painting and now I haven't in the last minute.
My hand is steady. This is a great one, I love this one, but this is the hand to paint with. No, that's it. Sometimes you have got to just like take a deep breath, dive in, put a splash of colour and walk away. Like, oh, where's this one going? That's all right. We'll just blend that a little bit. So you can see the scene is sort of opening up. You could go a little bit more contrast in the trees, but I'm not going to bother.
Graham says too much crimson.
Too much crimson. You can never have enough crimson. But what I have got, like I said, I'm not. Oh yeah, come on. One of them. I'll just quickly put that in. How are we doing for time? Is everybody still awake? I'll just put a few more little things in there.
You've got to watch on me.
Basically, let's just finish dab that in there. It's quite sort of random little, straight out of the tube, cadmium red, and like I said, keep it random, so not too.
You're just doing the last of your poppies.
Yeah, that'll do. And
where you've still got your seed heads, haven't you?
I have indeed, yes, but that's all happening next because.
Valda says, have a sip of wine.
Sip of wine.
Yeah, I suppose one is allowed to. One can do lunchtime wine, but maybe a little bit.
It's funny, like I said.
Dan Moore has come online.
Dan, greetings. Not out in the bite.
Where's Dan? He's down in New Zealand, or Australia or New Zealand.
Yeah, I had some friends who've been out cycling in England, all over the place. We can't actually leave the house here. Other friends are cycling.
We can leave the house, but not on a bicycle.
Not riding a bicycle, no. So I'm very jealous. A friend of ours, Steve Thomas, I think Dan probably knows him, rode up the Wide Valley and rode up all the hills around the Wide Valley. Well, that's a long day out. We can't. If I rolled the bike outside, there's a police helicopter comes over.
Well, we saw it. We saw some guy that came down the road the other day, and our little local, it's not a gendarme, you get a sort of municipal police here as well. And he came to a screeching halt, sort of rolled down his window and...
shot him.
Shot him, and told the guy that he had to turn around and go back home. So, it's,
The world of turbo trainers for us. Anyway, so now, as I said, we've got all this nice dark green in here. And what I've done, I've sharpen tape. I've added a bit of white gouache mixed with sap green.
So that's really quite
Very
white
white,
with very little green in
It's
it.
mainly white, just with a little bit of green in. And that will just give a little bit of opacity, because it's impossible to paint a watercolour white over something else. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to put some of these little, what do they call them?
Well, I call them seed pods, but they're not actually, they're buds. It's the flower bud before it opens up.
So I'm just going to put a couple of little ovals in there. We're going to...
Do you know what I find the most amazing is last year, because this used to be an old vineyard, which they took the vines up a few years ago.
Yeah.
Then I think they had 1 year where there was wheat growing in the field. And this year it's just been a disused field. But last year there pretty well wasn't a single poppy in sight. And then this year the field is absolutely full of poppies.
Yeah. So I've just dabbed a few little poppy bits in here. Pre-poppies.
Hi San from Montpellier, and Nikki, you've asked, will this video be captured so I can follow later? Yes, we will be trying, definitely, the plan is to save it and put it up onto YouTube.
It will be, it'll be available on the Facebook page.
And it'll be on the Facebook page for a while.
There you are now. And yeah, we will put the slightly edited version up on YouTube, and I'll send a link out to that as well. If you really want to watch it again, I'll keep watching it.
But the advantage of watching it after the event is that you can fast forward bits if you want to, and potentially...
Who would do that?
I don't know. They'll fast forward through...
Yeah, and freeze it. I mean, there was a lovely picture painted by Mary Jane, I think it was. And she got it on the screen, obviously frozen the image on her laptop and was painting from that.
Yeah.
So yeah, whatever works. So I'm just going to put some, I've got this white and green mix. I'm just going to put a few of these. If you look at these, they've got the little flicky things that kind of like that. I'll try and just try one over here. If in doubt, start on the slightly out of the picture. There we are, that's quite nice. And then I'm just going to, I'll put a few little white or very greeny mixes in the foreground. There we are. Well, how do people watch this? I'd love to see some photos of what you're actually doing. I suppose you're watching Netflix in your pyjamas on the sofa with this on your phone, with perhaps the headphones on. But okay, now we got, see, I've just put a few little lighter streaks in now, just kind of, especially in the foreground, just break that up a little bit. Gives the effect. I mean, there's 1,000 ways of doing fields of poppies, but this is just one of them. I think it's working okay. All right. So what's next? Oh, just a little bit of dash of bright yellow in there. If I can find anything that's not gone muddy, I've got a little bit of cadmium yellow and splash that on there. Oh, it's almost thick as oil. There we are. Does that stand out at all or not? I might just dab a little bit of white on that. Oh, no, it's gone too white.
Yeah. Now you've got a big white dot in the middle. Would you like to put a little more on?
Still a bit more yellow. This is going to be there we are. Just looking at the reference photograph again. What else we got? We've got kind of things going on. I might just put a little bit of little splashes of white on some of these things here. Look. Just to pick those out. I think that's...
I mean, again, are you doing those little bits of white from a specific direction? So you're taking...
like I said, the sun is coming from the left-hand side over here. So if you add a highlight to whatever, I mean, it's not as cut and dried here. But on the left-hand side will be a lighter highlight. And then possibly something a bit darker.
Martin and Jan has said, we watch you every evening, Simon.
Every evening, that's the spirit. Yeah, just have it on loop. Have it on loop. Is that more expensive to do that?
By the time they finish, they're never going to want to come on holiday again. They'll be absolutely sick to death of the two of us.
It's possible. Yeah, they guys are booked in for a holiday this summer, which we hope in some shape or form will be taking place. I keep ringing Macaron, see what he's doing about it. All being well, pull a few strings, see what we can do. We'll keep people informed. So, yeah, when I think of the Airbnb thing, I mean, the guys wanted some photographs of me in action to show this stuff. And I described the scene of the sunlight coming through the shutters into my French studio. And of course, it's raining out there still. And there's going to be no chance of those quintessentially French, southern French studio pictures. I might have to do a bit of retouching. And
we're meant to have a bit of sunshine.
And the computer broke this morning. It's gone. It's not my lucky day. It's not my lucky day. But I think that's pretty well it. I think let's have a look. Let's compare the two. This is like one I did earlier. Oh, now we've got this running down here. Look.
I think you might have to dab that.
I might have to dab that. But no, I think in some ways it's quite nice. This is a little bit more illustrative, a bit more carefully done. But really, I think. It's quite nice, just splashing the red on.
That's the beauty of watercolour as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people's water technique, colour techniques, specifically work on that whole thing of colours bleeding into one another.
Exactly, yeah. So it's often what I think has worked is having the masking fluid on in the background. Would you say the reds are slightly stronger? They're shining up better on the side. Gone a little bit wild here. But that's worked out okay, but you can see the greens through it. But yeah, so here particularly, it's gone a bit dark, hasn't it?
Denny, if you'd been able to make it this weekend, this would have been the one of the poppy fields that we actually would have been painting.
Oh,
but we hope that this makes up for it, and hopefully we see you later in the year.
Yeah. That would be great. Yes, we've been a little picnic going on here, a little glass of wine in the shade. Anyway, we would have just gone to Kevin and Elaine's for a cup of tea. We would have gone for a cup of tea, especially if it started raining. Anyway, gives you a little bit of a taste. I think I'll call it a day there. We can go home early, and basically, to recap, I had a nice scene which I thought would make a good painting, but I've just tweaked the composition a little bit. I put some larger poppies in the foreground and a little house and wall in the background. Which I think helps the composition. Starting in the background, those lighter skies and distant hills, the trees getting stronger, and then sort of detail down here. What I'll do, I'll just whip that edge off.
For the great reveal.
The great reveal. Fantastic, look at that. See, that's what's not, when you start painting down at the foreground, it does intensify the picture, I think, so that's been good. So that's good. Is there anything else we need to bring up? Let's have a little list here, as usual. Don't forget.
Lots of compliments coming through, and people saying
what we like.
Val said she's going to try it in oils, which I think will look fantastic. And please share the result with us. I know the oils you might not get it done in a weekend.
But if Val sends something through, my career is over. Anyway, so don't forget, we do birthday greetings. We have a dog that will sing happy birthday to you. I kid you not. So if you've got a birthday coming up, just announce it and don't make it up.
And we'll get our dog to sing happy birthday to you.
What else have we got? Oh yeah, if you can, leave a positive review on Facebook, because the more we get, the better. And obviously, great. With the last week's video, I think reached thousands of people eventually, which is lovely. Thank you very much for sharing and so on.
And if anybody wants to join me for a cooking demo tomorrow,
I'll be there behind the camera.
Simon will be poking me in the chest this time, and I'll be the one. We're doing Moroccan meatballs.
Moroccan meatballs, yes, a little bit of a spicy dish tomorrow.
Yeah, not massively.
So it's like tomorrow afternoon. We'll send the link out.
17:30.
Always another good laugh. Always good. Yeah, and please heckle. And ask obscure questions that Monica can't answer. That's the challenge. But I think that's about it for today. Thank you very much for coming on for live tutorial number 3. The Poppies. We'll be able to put all this up again on Facebook. If you do fancy having a go, great. Send it through and we'll put it on the the celebrated exhibition wall next week.
Robin was saying it's actually Anzac Day today, so it's actually quite appropriate the poppies are being painted.
Wow, that's great. Well, on that note, let's hope to see you all again next week. Okay, bye for now.
Thank you very much. Cheers guys.